Hello, the problem of today is a mate in 9 moves. Very nice. I invite you to try to solve it, and I'm beginning immediately to show what happens here. If you are interested in solving, you pause the video and then you come back. Okay. So the black king is closed on G1 H1. The second rank is controlled by the rook. The knight controls F1 and G2, and the bishop controls H2. The rook cannot give immediately mate on D1 because of F2 that is not guarded. If the king were on H1, you would be able to give mate by rook D1. So all the moves of the white rook on the first rank will be answered by king F2. But there is a place that the rook can reach, and from that place it will be a mate on the first rank. And this place is F1. For example, if we play rook G2, king H1, rook F2, king G1, you have rook F2, F1, mate. But if we make these moves, we'll have some small problems. Rook G2, king H1, rook F2, and black takes the bishop and then gives the flight on H2, and then there is no more mate. So people who want to solve are invited to pause the video now, and I'm going on. So we can put the bishop in another place. For example, check, king H1, and now we cannot give mate because when checking, the bishop abandons the control of H2. So the bishop has to go away in order to control H2 and to threaten the mate on D1. For example, if the bishop goes to E5 and we go with the king, so we'll be free. But black will be able not to go with the king, but to put the rook in play by playing rook D7, controlling D1, and then forbidding the immediate mate, and afterwards the bishop will be able to give check, and the white will not have immediate mates, so we cannot allow the rook to come in play. Then the bishop has to choose D6 in order to close the D column and threatening rook D1 and leaving the black only with the rook, the king, to move to G1 in order to parry the threat rook D1 mate by giving access to F2. So now, if you want to solve, you are still invited. How can we progress in that position? We want to play rook G2, king H1, rook F2 to threaten mate in order not to allow the king. It will not be useful for the king to go to g1. But now the rook can go to f7. So if the rook goes to f7, we are stuck. Afterwards, if we take the rook, afterward the bishop will come in play, and we will not be able to mate in a small number of moves. So in that position, if we want to go on, we have to close first the f column in the same way we closed the d column with the bishop. We say, okay, we'll go with the bishop to h2 and then to f4. But if we go immediately to f4, we open the d column. The bishop cannot be also on the d column and also on the f. So we have to choose. So first we play rook g2, king h1, rook e2, and we have a use now for the fact that the knight don't allow the rook to play on e7. It is closed now. So the king has to come to g1, and then we can place the bishop wherever we need. And bishop h2, king h1, bishop f4, closing the f column, king g1, rook h2, king h1, and rook f2. And now there is nothing for black. They go to g1 just to show that the mate is also controlling f2, and we have 9 rook f1 mate. So all in all, a solution that is not so difficult. Or you have threats in one move, or you have checks. There's no variation, and we have plenty moves or go and throw from the bishop or the rook. It's a very nice problem. Very few pieces on the board. Very interesting and easy to understand. So I hope you enjoyed it, and bye.